About a year ago, I made what I believe to be by far the darkest Call of Duty Iceberg ever made, rubbing his hot dog into the Samantha character model in Black Ops 1. And these—
Bro, what? Dude, we're on tier 1? What is tier 5 gonna be, bro?
In that video, I just went over a lot of lore, facts, Easter eggs, some conspiracy theories, like how Takio was raped by a spider. I'm not joking. Railed by a spider. Or in other words, he was.
Yeah.
So I thought today we'd go over a new Iceberg, one in which we get to go through the more disturbing and theory-based side of things, as well as including more games we didn't talk about last time, like Ghost, IW, Advanced Warfare, and expanding on some of the past entries, like how some of the developers may have been part of the CIA, allegations of pedos, and the Apple. We're coming with the heat today, okay? And this is the official darkest Iceberg ever made. And I'm not doing no more. I'm done. I'm retired. Also, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel. 99% of you guys are not subscribed. And where else are you gonna find stuff like this? I'm on Darice. On Halloween night in 2012, Milo So Gangsta would release one of the greatest songs ever, called I'm on Darice, because he was playing the map Darice. I mean, it's brilliant. In the description, he states how his stepbrother had made this song years earlier and he was just uploading it.
Get your guns ready, it's about to go down. Every zombie in the place hit the floor, but stay on your mother toes. We running this. Let's go. I'm on Darice. I'm on Darice. Everybody look at me, cause I'm pissing on a zombie.
After this hit song, Milo So Gangsta wouldn't upload for another 6 years until he posted a short video of him just looking good surfing, my man. And since then, he has still not uploaded to this day, so shout out to whatever my boy's doing now.
I'm on Darice. I'm on Darice. Take a good hard look at the mother map.
Noriega grandson. Manuel Noriega, one of the best side characters in BO2, was a real person. Dictator of Panama, working as an informant for the CIA, but he was secretly one of the biggest drug traffickers ever, being sent to jail where he would eventually pass away. But in Black Ops 2, he is,
This is not a deal. Call your boss.
But before he died, he did get to see himself in the game and then try to sue Activision for his false betrayal of himself. However, the way he even found out he was in the game was because his own grandson played BO2 and then asked him, since obviously, I mean, he's sitting the grandpa in the game. Shit, imagine being his grandson. The reason you know about what your grandpa did was because you saw it in a Call of Duty game. The lore goes crazy. 115 movie. Back in 2016, a zombies YouTuber named the JFK Gamer announced he was going to be making the 115 movie, which would basically be a Call of Duty Zombies movie that would feature the classic characters and zombies. And the best part of it all was that the cast was gonna mostly be like zombies YouTubers. JFK Gamer was a 20-year-old college film student, and he truly believed that him alongside a professional could make this movie and be one of the biggest events in Call of Duty history. But in order for this to actually take place, they would need a budget of $25,000 that needed to be raised in just a few months. However, once they had raised a few $1,000s, it would be announced that the movie was going to be shot in April of 2016, spanning 3 or 4 days. But get this, okay? At the same time that the film was supposed to be recording was the same time that the new zombie map Zetsubou no Shima was coming out. And so all the zombie YouTubers were going to be focused on making their own content and covering that instead of shooting the 115 movie for basically nothing. So yes, instead of just like rebooking the studio a second time, JFK Gamer would end up releasing an apology video in which he explained that since all the zombie YouTubers were busy, they couldn't shoot for the movie and that it had been canceled altogether. Thousands of dollars from donors down the drain because this man booked it the same week as a zombie map. So after one singular obstacle that came in his way, he just gave up. I mean, maybe he thought it wasn't going to be worth it, you know, all the stress, the money. But yeah, I mean, the 115 movie, it never happened. And the JFK Gamer YouTube channel still exists with over 200k subs, but all of its videos have been deleted. I mean, I'm about to subscribe to him because I want him to come back to YouTube. BO2 drone bombing. In the Black Ops 2 campaign, Menendez hijacks the US drone fleet, attacking and destroying Los Angeles. According to developer interviews, community rumors, Treyarch had originally planned a mission or cutscene that would show a first-person view from inside a US drone. You would be controlling a drone and then you would just fire missiles on civilian targets like either a marketplace, a school, even a hospital. The player is piloting the drone, killing innocent people of California, while playing as Menendez's random goon. Hey, it sounds like a good time to me. So it's similar to the No Russian Mission. It would have been controversial, you know, and it could have potentially had some real life political impacts, showing US military tech killing people, and it could also start some controversy around real world drone strikes, like what happened in Yemen and Pakistan. And coincidentally enough, you actually go to Pakistan and Yemen in the BO2 campaign, so they knew what they were doing. In interviews, developers referenced some cut ethical choices and some removed scenes that crossed the line. The Ghost in Warhawk. In Call of Duty Ghosts, there is a ghost. On the map Warhawk, for years, players have reported bizarre glitches going on during private matches. People claim to see an extra red dot on the minimap as if there's a player when they're just not. And imagine seeing that in the lobby. You just playing by yourself, then there's an enemy just on the map. I mean, I would get scarred. So one theory about this claims that there was once a shadow operative mode where a third player would stalk teams invisibly to kill in secret. Die Rise Children Experiment. This is a theory that Die Rise was originally supposed to have a heavier focus on like experimentation, possibly involving children. They were going to be experimented on inside the tower before the outbreak, possibly to like harness or protect them from element 115, or even to like get some psychic abilities or something. If you listen closely to some areas in Die Rise, especially like near the elevator shafts and sealed rooms, you can hear faint childlike screams, laughter, and sometimes whispering. There's even sound files labeled as child_moan in the game's code. I'm coming for them children, baby. World at War cannibalism. In World at War's Pacific campaign, there are references that are implying acts of cannibalism by some starving Japanese soldiers. In the mission Burn 'Em Out and others, US Marines discover heavily starved Japanese defenders. And some hidden voice lines suggest that Japanese soldiers resorted to eating the dead due to desperation, because I mean they ran out of food. No more sushi, no more ramen, no more anime. And while it's never shown explicitly in the gameplay, there's dialogue cues and corpses with some odd arrangements. And I mean, it's World War II. When people are starving, they'll do anything. Nuketown Bunker. For basically my entire life, the mystery of what is inside the Nuketown Bunker has baffled millions. Then Alpha Omega came out and it kind of showed it. But let's be real here, like that's not the truth, okay? That's like a different universe. These bunker doors are inaccessible, and some believe they were used to harbor kidnapped people and brainwash them using MK Ultra. Nuketown isn't just a test site for like missiles. It's a cover-up for something much darker. Chernobyl voices. In All Gillied Up, the mission in Call of Duty 4 taking place in Pripyat and Chernobyl, you can actually hear voices as you're walking by, which seems to sound like children or like people screaming.
Move up. Look at this place.
People say these yells could be our imagination, or it could be the souls and spirits of people who died in the unfortunate day that the Chernobyl power plant malfunctioned, and that they are trying to scream for help, and they're trying to like break out of whatever they're in. I don't know. You know me, I'm just trying to go swimming out here. Campaign affects difficulty. In Black Ops 1, the difficulty you set for your campaign actually also applies to zombies. For example, if you played the campaign on recruit difficulty, if you get hit by a zombie, it'll take 3 seconds to regenerate. But if you play the campaign through veteran, it would only take about 1.5 seconds to regenerate your health, which is pretty crazy. I mean, I never knew this in all my years. No one ever talked about this. And the easiest way to tell what difficulty you're on is that on normal difficulty or even hardened, being hit once does not give you a red screen, but on veteran, if you do get hit once, then you will get automatically red screen. And also on veteran, every trap will do way more damage to the zombies. It'll also remove the low ammo or no ammo icon on your weapon, and this is all because for World at War and BO1, the zombies and campaign run through the same executable file. And if you're playing like a public match or with other friends, then it'll convert to whatever the host difficulty is. MW3 controversy. A well-known controversy in Call of Duty history. In the intro cinematic of Modern Warfare 3 called The Davis Family Vacation, we see a man recording his wife and daughter. This intro for the campaign sparked a lot of critics who accused Infinity Ward of using child death for like shock value, much like the No Russian mission in MW2, but this time it also involves visible children. And journalists in the UK called it tasteless, especially since it depicted a terrorist attack on London only a few years after the 2005 London bombings. Ray gun wallbye. In Black Ops 2 Zombies, they have something that was never seen again in any other Call of Duty, being perma perks. Basically secret little perks you get by doing a specific challenge, like diving off a certain amount of distance for PhD flopper, or even getting a red insta kill that would immediately decimate any zombie that even touches you. But the most overpowered one ever would have to be the ray gun wallbye. I mean, come on. Yes, you can legit just buy a wonder weapon off the wall. So to do it, you need to be ranked 2 bones or lower, which is like the ranking system for BO2. Then you gotta buy the Olympia. Yes, Olympia gang, you already know. And then once you buy it, you just gotta keep buying ammo for it just over and over as soon as the match starts. And after 10 or 20 times of buying ammo, you'll see a green haze effect, and then you can replace it with the ray gun for 500 points. Cuba controversy. In the Black Ops 1 campaign, there is a mission in which you bob Fidel Castro right in the forehead before his girl then tries to beat us. I mean, that ain't gonna happen. But at the end of the mission, we learned that it wasn't actually him, it was just a double. However, this scene in the game did cause a bunch of controversy. Yes, Call of Duty used to cause controversy. I mean, this is crazy. As you may know, the United States tried to assassinate Fidel Castro over 600 times, and they failed every single one. So when this game dropped, Cuban articles and journalists were enraged at this scene and claimed that Activision put this in the game because since they couldn't get Castro in real life, they actually had to do it virtually. Misty nerf. Misty from Black Ops 2 is probably one of the most popular original cast members, but a lot of that has to do with the way she looks. I mean, let's a lot of people are weirdos out there. Let's just be honest, especially you Call of Duty weirdos, you gaming motherfucker. The way Misty's character was designed did not help at all. I mean, let's just say my man Marlton, he was going brazy. But in Black Ops 4, they actually brought Misty back as like a blackout character, and it seems that they knew all the stigma around her, because for the first time in COD history, a character was nerfed, but she was nerfed in like a different way, you know. And Misty did not look the same at all from BO2.
On the right, they've obviously again untucked and untied her shirt and then added a strap around her waist and a strap around her shoulder, and that's holding a gun holster. It definitely seems like they've toughened her up a little bit for Black Ops 4 Blackout.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever done, bro. Syndicate faked run. One of the most iconic Call of Duty videos of all time has to be the Syndicate Project video from him getting to round 115 on Kino der Toten years ago. Since back then, getting to round 100 was something only some of the best players in the world could do. And this video would garner millions of views over the years, and if you've played Zombies or just Call of Duty in general, then you've probably heard about it. However, in recent time, there has been many videos that claim the entire run was faked and Syndicate is a fraud. And this is due to multiple things that happened during the game, and because the video is split into 2 parts. It's not one continuous thing. Since back then, when you were recording like a game, you would just pause. You would like record and then pause, because I mean there wasn't much storage to go around. But what is for certain though is that it was definitely 2 different games, since he is playing a different character in different videos. And Syndicate's story and explanation for this was basically that he got to about round 70 on his first game, but then he died and just continued on his video series from round 70, since I mean he had already posted the video, so he just went from round 70 and on just pretending it was the same match, which would mean that the round 115 was real. He actually got to it legit. He just included footage from 2 different attempts for YouTube's sake, but I mean he did get to the round. However, a lot of people don't believe his explanation, because like a bunch of small things like his points, quick revive machine, and the fact that when he got the thunder gun, it had 10 bullets instead of the normal 12, which gives signs that it could have possibly been modded, because when you give yourself a thunder gun through console commands, it only gives you 10 bullets. It does the thing 2 and 10. In my opinion though, I think the most likely option is that his first game was real, but then he died on like round 70, and since he had already recorded his previous videos, already uploaded, and got into such a high round, if you've ever played Zombies, I mean, you know those high rounds are just, they're not fun. So after Syndicate died, I think he modded himself back to round 70 and then pretended like he was continuing on from the same game. And you know, if he did do that, I mean, you know, I guess the run's not legit, but I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't want to get to round 70 either, so I'm not gonna hate. Screw that shit. But it is now time to move on to tier 2. Apothecon Servant Pack-a-Punch. When Black Ops 3 first dropped in 2015, players found a glitch where you could Pack-a-Punch the wonder weapon on Shadows of Evil, being the Apothecon Servant. And this is just one of the craziest glitches ever, because it shows there was supposed to be a way to be able to Pack-a-Punch the Apothecon Servant on Shadows. And I mean, they left it in the game. It was still in there somewhere, but they would end up removing this glitch in a later update. But at least we got to see it a little bit, you know?
Quickly switch to your wonder weapon and hold square. And as you can see, the wonder weapon actually got took in instead of my actual other gun, which I have right here.
The Apothecon Servant would now shoot pink orbs and had double the ammo, making it just super OP, which could be the reason they unfortunately removed this glitch. And you know, they would end up adding a little quest and revelations to be able to Pack-a-Punch it, but still it was not as good as the Shadows one. Chernov Diary. In World at War's final mission, Chernov will read his diary out loud in the beginning of it, but the words he says when describing the player, being you, being Dimitri, depends on the decisions that you made throughout the entire game and whether or not you decided to show mercy. The first choice comes when Reznov tells you to let your men die on the battlefield, they're done for. But if you decide to ignore him and then actually help them out, then
Hold fire! We are too close to our goal to reveal our position. There is nothing we can do for our comrades. Their sacrifice will not go unavenged. No, idiot! You see? They will still die! And now you have given away our position!
the next one comes when Reznov and Chernov break in to help you.
Dmitri! Finish those rats! Once again, you cheat death. Our tanks are ready to smash this line and... Chernov! I am not hearing gunshots.
There is no point, Sergeant. They are already bleeding to death.
Then maybe our friend will have them bleed faster.
Deciding not to shoot the wounded German soldiers will earn Chernov's admiration. And lastly, the part where the German soldiers are surrendering, Dimitri is given the chance to either finish them off quickly with bullets or to burn them alive.
Chernov! What is going on?
These men are trying to surrender!
That comes only two ways. Fast or slow. Dmitri, it is your choice. Chernov, you should learn from Dmitri. He understands the nature of mercy killing. You should have shot them, Chernov. It is only cruel to prolong animal suffering.
So, depending on if you made the good choices to show mercy to your enemies, neutral choices, or bad ones, Chernov will have different dialogue describing you.
When he first spoke of Dmitri, Reznov told tales of a hero. His merciless brutality defines him only as a savage, just like the rest of the Red Army. He is no hero. His bravery on the battlefield is beyond question, but he has also shown mercy amidst the brutality of the Red Army. He is indeed a hero. At times, I have seen him show mercy, and at others act with complete brutality. I do not understand him. Perhaps heroes need not question their actions.
Fog of War. Call of Duty Fog of War was a third-person shooter that was in development by Sledgehammer Games. It was set during the Vietnam War, specifically in Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, during the 1960s and 70s, made by the same head guy who worked on Dead Space. And this would have been the first time Call of Duty went third-person.
Developer Sledgehammer Games' unreleased third-person Call of Duty game was internally titled Fog of War. Set against a horrific Vietnam War backdrop, Sledgehammer's Michael Condrey says Fog of War was conceived as Call of Duty with the playstyle of Uncharted. He says, it was really taking our passion for Call of Duty with our experience and expertise from Dead Space and bringing that together to offer fans a new Call of Duty way to play.
Shipment bodies. This is a theory that the map Shipment, which has been seen in many games beginning with Call of Duty 4, Shipment is actually just a place where they store bodies. Yeah, you know, all those unopened containers and stuff, they actually all have corpses in there. And I mean, it would kind of make sense because every time you play Shipment, you get spawn camped and shot like 36 times. And I mean, they have to put the body somewhere. Transit, Skinwalker. Transit. One of the worst, one of the best fucking maps ever, and if you disagree, you're a... We all know in Transit, when you go out into the fog, these ugly ass mother flipping gremlin looking little creatures will just jump out at you and try to scratch your eyeballs out. They are called denizens. But did you know that there is a rumor that Transit actually has different creatures inside of it? More of like a bigger version of a denizen, except it also kind of looks like a human, which is why people call it a skinwalker. So yeah, maybe some sort of human experimented on with 115 and it went horribly wrong. But this creature is only seen deep into the fog at a certain position of the map that it is basically like impossible to see or something. Now, me personally, I never heard about this before this video, but I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, transit is a foggy, deep, big place. So hey, maybe Tim Hansen, Terrible Panda, could be hiding out there, you know? Woods is a clone. This is a theory that the boy Frank Woodson III is actually a clone after the events of Vietnam. So in Black Ops 1, you get captured in Laos by Kravchenko near the end of the game, and this is the same mission where Bowman dies and where Woods delivers his most iconic line.
You can't kill me! You shoot, GI, you shoot!
But in this mission, Kravchenko knocks down Mason and Woods comes to stab him before Kravchenko pulls out the grenade as they fall outside, presumably killing both of them. And another thing some people point to is the fact that 90 years old, Woods' personality is still pretty much the same. And could that be because the clone programming never goes away, and since he's a clone, he doesn't die from old age even though he's been through war, drinks, and smokes every day? Or maybe it's just Woods being Woods. I mean, he is that Nick. 5 glitches. A top 5 zombies map ever. You see what I did there? 5 is a difficult map, but for some reason it also seems to have some of the most glitched spots ever, including probably the most iconic one of all time, where you jump on the table and then all the zombies will just start spinning in circles around you like your name is Marlon. Who knew all you have to do to win a zombie apocalypse is just stand on top of a table? And there's also a spot near the vent that you can go to. It feels like you're playing Among Us, so you can just stand up right there, basically invincible to all the zombies. And lastly, this one's not really a glitch, but one of the best things about 5 is that these little window things scattered across the lab, they're actually breakable. If you jump through them and crouch, you can use them to your advantage. Activision allegations. Activision has faced multiple allegations of sexual harassment, discrimination, toxic workplace, etc. And in 2021, California's Civil Rights Department sued the company. Reports described things like cube crawls, which, stay with me now, it's basically a thing where drunk male employees go and try to riz female co-workers, as well as a notorious hotel room that is nicknamed the Cosby Suites, because I mean what they do there is very similar to what Bill Cosby used to do back in his prime. And some women also reported being denied promotions, paid less, and retaliated against, that they complained and complained for years, but Activision never did anything, and bad behavior went unpunished for years. Dead Ops Guerrilla. Dead Ops Arcade is one of Call of Duty's most forgotten and overlooked modes. If you ask someone about it, they usually say, oh nah man, it's cool, you know, super underrated. Everyone says it's underrated, and yet, you know, no one ever plays it, but I mean, it's great. However, what many don't know is that the first Dead Ops Arcade featuring the iconic silverback gorilla, he is actually a mutant gorilla that escaped from the other zombies map in BO1, being Ascension. There's a test lab in a Russian Cosmodrome where experiments are being done on various creatures, but my cosmic silverback boy, he got out of there, you know. RCXD pass. In the Black Ops series, RCXDs are like the classic streak. Everyone always gets this streak and just drives it around like a little bit. But there are certain maps that actually include secret paths only accessible by this remote car. These paths can get you from one point to the other, but just by driving in a few seconds. And I'm gonna be honest, I barely ever used them, but some people don't even know these existed. And I mean, they are kind of cool. Die Rise ground level. For as long as it has existed, people have always wondered what was at the bottom of Die Rise. A zombies map taking place in Shanghai, a place where there is only skyscrapers. You cannot make your way down to the street. In the early days, it was theorized that there was a road that would take you somewhere after you had completed the boss fight, or that down there's like more zombies and more crazy water things that would try to eat you, or that there was even going to be other humans down there that are like in a cult and they try to, you know, eat. I mean, I don't know, you know, things was running wild back in the day. But if you do go to the bottom and underneath the fog and the water and stuff, there's not really much going on. The city is flooded, foggy, and there's few signs of buildings that show maybe this was some sort of market or restaurant. But unfortunately, besides that, there's not really anything to see here. Favela controversy. In Modern Warfare 2, there's a multiplayer map taking place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. But you see, with this map, players from the Middle East noticed that in one of the bathrooms of the map, there were framed pictures that had Arabic calligraphy, with one of the phrases being, Allah is beautiful and he loves beauty. And the issue here was that the religious text objects placed inside of the virtual bathroom is considered disrespectful in Islamic culture. So because of some backlash, Activision actually pulled the favela map completely from multiplayer online matchmaking and issued a public apology, stating that the art was included unintentionally and that they respect all religions, you know what I'm saying. Kowloon Zombies map. Kowloon was a Black Ops 1 DLC map that was also in the campaign. The map has zip lines, interactive items, unlike a lot of others so far in COD history. And honestly, Kowloon is one of the best maps ever, but people have actually found in the DLC files zombie specific scripts and map tags attached to Kowloon. So what this means is that some of the leftover files contain things like zombie_door, zombie_spawn, and lighting zones set up for wave progression, which means at one point Kowloon was going to be a zombie map, and looking at the layout, it kind of makes sense. It's a cramped multi-level map with a bunch of windows that look like they would be for boarding, and there was actually a custom zombies map of Kowloon made in BO3, which was pretty good. Makarov in COD 4 and Call of Duty 4, you can actually see Makarov in the mission all gillied up, but he is only featured in the remastered version of COD 4 released in 2016. When you're on the rooftop about to shoot Zakayev, if you turn to the left, you can actually see Makarov and Yuri in the car next to him, and after sniping Zakayev, you can then take a shot at Makarov, and once doing so, you actually unlock a trophy. Area 51 radio. In the Zombies map 5, if you hang around and listen closely to the background radio transmissions and chatter, you'll sometimes hear voice lines for military communications referencing Groom Lake, which is a US Air Force military known as Area 51. And since 5 takes place in the Pentagon, it makes sense that they would be trying to contact him, contact the president, or whatever, and this also foreshadowing of what would be coming in the upcoming year, since as you know, the last map of BO1 was Moon, and it actually begins in Groom Lake in Area 51, and it even includes a pack-a-punch machine, so you can like get an alien body, stick it in there, and what'll come out is this guy. Okay, this guy is what comes out. Okay, but enough of that. It's time to get a little deeper, a little colder. Tier 3, here we go. Cut Chernov scene. In World at War's final mission, our boy Chernov is seen before the final battle, writing in his diary before Reznov said,
Which do you think will lead us home? Writing about this war or fighting it?
Wretched Germany in the blood.
No one will ever read this. If you lack the stomach to kill for your country, at least show me that you are willing to die for it.
But as you are invading the building, Chernov is the one carrying the Soviet flag, and on the way up the steps, he then gets burnt to a crisp by a flamethrower. Now, as bad as this looks, the original scene was actually 10 times more gruesome and sad, with Reznov asking you to end his suffering by shooting Chernov.
Chernov, come on! The anti-way! Chernov! No! Dmitri, he is suffering. You know what you should do. Move inside!
Nikolai's real wife. Nikolai Belensky, one of the most iconic characters in Zombies. He is often heard talking about his past wives and how for some reason they all died. But this Russian drinking, vodka slurping, this man is actually just coping. Nikolai only ever had one wife, and he uses these exaggerated stories to hide his grief, to distract himself from the pain of losing his true love. And by telling his comrades all these stories as well as drinking massive amounts of alcohol is how he tries to get over it. He never had multiple wives. He's just reminiscing about his first and only that he lost. Reznov killed JFK. This is a theory that Viktor Reznov was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy in Black Ops 1, and he did this by being the second shooter along with Alex Mason. As we know, Mason was brainwashed by Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner to assassinate JFK, but Reznov also brainwashed Mason for his own benefit, which includes him keeping the same brainwashing that Mason already had, which was to kill JFK. Reznov kept that in his system because he also wanted JFK gone. You see, there is multiple messages of a man named John Trent to Jason Hudson. The first one says, quote, "You don't know me, but I know Alex Mason. You will learn to trust me. Everything changes on Friday." And the next message John Trent sends is to none other than JFK, one day before his assassination. And he told him, "You only have one day left." quote, victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, alluding to what Reznov said to Mason in Vorkuta.
Reznov, your men must know this is suicide. Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, Mason. We Russians know this better than anyone.
So it seems clear, at least to me, that Reznov is still alive. There is no one else in the entire world who would know this voice line, and he's also one of the only people in the world that would know that JFK was about to die, since he knew about the whole Mason brainwashing stuff. And that exact same day, John Trent, or Reznov, also tells Jason Hudson, quote, it was by the hand of Nikita Dragovich. This is just the beginning. They are everywhere. Start at Vorkuta, 2 escaped the breakout, you know one of them, the other one just died. And after JFK's death, another message would be sent to Hudson with a bunch of numbers, and once decoded, these numbers would translate to, quote, Oswald compromise. The last message John Trent would ever send would come 5 years later in 1968, where he says, quote, please tell Mason one last thing. This time it's freedom for both of us. Obviously referencing that scene at Vorkuta where Reznov tells Mason, freedom for you, not for me. So with this all considered, this theory suggesting Reznov was there the day JFK died, and he either watched it happen or was even actively involved as the second shooter, with Lee Harvey Oswald being the scapegoat. Of course, the only problem with all this is that didn't Reznov die years earlier in Vorkuta? Well, these messages, at least to me, prove that Reznov is still alive. I 100% think John Trent is Reznov. I mean, he just knew about some things that no one else would ever know, as well as the fact that you do see him in BO2 in Afghanistan, but in my opinion, I think that was just Mason's imagination. But hey, Reznov was involved in JFK's killing, or at the very least, he knew it was gonna happen. Call of the Dead was a cover-up. Call of the Dead is set on a remote Siberian island near the Burkemenaya Tunguska River. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that is. Which in real life is famous for the 1908 Tunguska explosion, a massive outburst that flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest. But Call of the Dead was actually a movie set being directed by George Romero. However, as they were shooting the movie, George was taken by a real zombie and turned into whatever he is now. And this theory states that people like Group 935 or Soviet government, Dr. Max's even, just someone dragged George Romero and his cast all the way over here and told them it would be a great spot to shoot a movie. And they dragged them out there because this island had rumors that there was something on it that was supernatural, or you know, something that resembles zombies due to the explosion that occurred years earlier. So all the actors and George himself were brought out there where they thought the zombies would just be actors and costumes and stuff. Obviously, you know, they were real. And the scenes that were finished were shown to the public to portray the fact that there's nothing supernatural going on at this place. It's just a normal place. Cut German campaign. Call of Duty World at War sees you play from the perspective of the Soviets against Germany and America against Japan. But there's rumors that early in development they experimented with a playable German/Nazi campaign segment where you would play as a regular German Wehrmacht soldier during the later stages of the war. The idea was to show the collapse of Nazi Germany from the inside, seeing the crumbling front lines, all the propaganda. However, it was scrapped due to the fact that it would immediately be controversial. You know, there's a risk of appearing sympathetic to Nazis, or even if the player character wasn't like a war criminal, letting players experience the war from the German side risks a lot of backlash, especially in Western markets where German war imagery is extremely sensitive and even restricted in some places. But honestly, call me crazy, I'd actually like to see a Call of Duty try to take on the challenge of putting at least part of a campaign through the German lens and showing how dark it really was. Lacey Loon. Lacey Loon was a woman who lived in the 1800s, an old western mining town which ended up sinking underground, otherwise known as the Map Berry. Her mansion is filled with luxury and the map's bank sits nearby, which leads people to believe she was once a rich landowner or banker's wife. But in this town, down in the mines, this place was exposed to Element 115, and one of the miners who went down there one day would end up turning into a zombie when he got back to town. And when he got back up, the first house he came across was Lucy's at the mansion, and Lucy actually went outside to greet him. The man ended up ripping her throat out before some neighbors shot the zombie miner dead. After this, her son Jebediah needed closure about what really happened to his mother and what exactly happened to that miner. So he prayed, and eventually 2 angels came to him and told him to build the Pack-a-Punch machine. Yes, I know it sounds crazy. Maybe they needed a Pack-a-Punch Reagan or something, I don't know. But he did. Jebediah ended up building the Pack-a-Punch. However, when he was sad one night, he decided for some reason to go and dig up his mother from her grave and put her inside the Pack-a-Punch machine. He Pack-a-Punched his own dead mother. What? However, instead of his mother coming out like when a gun goes in and comes out, she never got Pack-a-Punched. Like, she never left the Pack-a-Punch machine. She just disappeared. And once Jebediah returned home, he now found her as a ghost or spirit, just wandering around and playing the piano from time to time, except the spirit or soul looked way younger than when she was, you know, old.
I felt overcome with loss and grief. I went to see Ma at the cemetery. Maybe it was the whiskey. Maybe it was delirium. I can't say, but I dug her up and took her into town. I took her to my shop where I kept the machine. I don't know what came over me. Like something took control of my body, like a puppet on strings. I put her in the machine. I don't know why. Maybe it would bring her back to me.
And she is what we know as the Buried Witch. Jonathan Irons quotes, "In Advanced Warfare, the main antagonist of the game and CEO of the private military corporation Atlas is Jonathan Irons. He's portrayed by the actor Kevin Spacey and serves as like a charismatic leader who slowly becomes a figure like you know, a bad figure, aiming to rule the world through Atlas. And throughout the campaign, Irons gives several speeches about the failures of government and the need for a single world order. And many of his lines are actually word-for-word quotes from real-life leaders that are also considered not so good people and may have wanted something like a world order, like Mussolini, Hitler, Francisco Franco. For example, Irons says, quote, "Democracy is outdated. It has failed the people. The world needs a single central authority," which closely resembles Mussolini's statement in 1932, where he says, quote, "Democracy is beautiful in theory. In practice, it is a fallacy. Liberty is a privilege of the strong." Irons also says, quote, "People don't want freedom, they want order," which closely mirrors Adolf's speech about people longing for authority and order over personal freedom, where he calls war, quote, "the great cleanser of the world," showing where Jonathan could be getting the inspiration for his not so moral plans for Atlas. Jump scares. There are multiple zombie maps that just have random little Easter egg jump scares that really don't mean anything, but that Treyarch decided to add in anyways. Firstly, on Mob of the Dead on the rooftop where you build the plane, if you aim in with the sniper scope at the fireworks in the sky, then there's also one on Origins if you aim at the church. And on Shadows of Evil, you can aim at the boat in the docks and get the infamous zombie Richtofen. For some reason, on Zetsubo, there's this creepy one where the character's eyes light up orange and just start screaming in your face. And of course, there's one on the Giant as well. And my personal favorite has to be the one on BO3 Moon, where in Area 51, you can get jump scared by BO3 Last Gen Richtofen. Menendez was MK Ultra. Raul Menendez, leader of the terrorist network Cortes Dia. I have talked about this man many times. His politics, his belief, his story. He believes capitalism is the root of all evil, and that the American government and its people, as well as others like China, should burn. Menendez actually has many supporters, over 2 billion in game and even a lot in real life. But as just a Call of Duty character, I think he's probably the best ever, along with like Reznov and Woods. However, this theory states that Menendez may have been brainwashed by the CIA through the MK Ultra program. That the CIA programmed him and planned to use him as a sleeper agent, but it ended up backfiring. The story goes that he was captured and held by the CIA in the 1980s, and that is the reason they didn't kill him or take down his operation sooner. Because if you don't know, in Black Ops Declassified, you actually go and kill Menendez's father as part of a CIA sting operation, but you are specifically told to not kill the young Raul Menendez, who would eventually become one of America's biggest problems.
It's his son. He is not a target. Let him go. That's one for the good guys.
So some believe that the CIA wanted to use Menendez to monitor his operations in Nicaragua as well as other drug trades going on in the area. Hijacked bunker. Have you ever noticed that in Black Ops 2 on the map Hijacked, there's just a bunch of big random stains of blood all throughout the map? Yeah, this theory states that Hijacked isn't actually some luxury yacht party place. It's a covert CIA black site disguised as one. If you don't know what a black site is, basically it's a secret government facility where intelligence agencies like the CIA, they detain, interrogate, or operate basically outside normal laws or oversight. They're off the record with no official documents that they even exist in the first place, and they're often located in remote areas or international waters to avoid any legal restrictions, and they're used for covert operations, interrogations, or experiments without public or legal knowledge and trouble. So yeah, they basically just drag people out to wherever they want with no government watching them, and they can basically just torture them and do stuff to them whichever way they want. And guess what? Hijacked is in fact on a boat in international waters. But it looks like something went wrong. The prisoners escaped or revolted, killing the crew and the guards. And the blood trails are the aftermath of this failed operation, left untouched because Hijacked was abandoned. And there's also some like unusual locked rooms and sealed off areas with no visible like civilians, personal belongings, or crew. Dr. Monty is Satan. Dr. Monty, introduced in Black Ops 3 as a godlike figure who claims to fix the multiverse. Monty erases like entire universes and souls, killing the premise crew after using them and rewriting memories to make people forget the old world, which some people say mirrors Satan's role as a deceiver who promises paradise while destroying free will, and he grants the player power through his gobblegums and perks that reward greed. And the paradise Dr. Monty offers is just a lie to trap souls. He is not the hero of the Ether story, but it's the devil. However,
it is now time to get deeper,
where it becomes darker, scarier. The apple. Something I've gone over before. Call of Duty's greatest Easter egg has to be the apple. Beginning in Call of Duty Finest Hour, we got a big boy apple that only someone like Lacey could eat, as well as this viral video from 2010 of a man complaining about an apple in the Black Ops 1 map just because it was floating and indestructible.
Look at that. Floating apple. I mean, this game is ruined. Are you kidding me? How do you allow the floating apple to get into the game? I mean, there's going to be people putting down tactical insertions over here.
What's funny is that after this video, in the next DLC pack release and in the next multiplayer map being Hangar 18, Treyarch added like an electrified, super powerful lighting floating apple just in the middle of this building as a tribute to the video. Takio Spider. I'm not making this up, okay? This is a real theory. The zombies character Takio was railed and violated by a spider. Okay, let me explain. I'm not making this up. This is a real theory. In Zetsubo no Shima, we come across a different species of spiders. One that is going extinct. Their homeland is being destroyed. They're just dying out as a whole. And the reason for this is because they are no longer able to reproduce. So it won't be long before they are wiped out entirely. However, what they can do is take male humans and reproduce with them. And it's theorized that Division 9 themselves forced Takio to reproduce with the mother spider. And some evidence people point to is how we can find Takio now as a thrasher being experimented on. And others say some proof could be the fact that Widow's Wine could be seen as a sexual thing, and that this whole thing takes inspiration from H.P. Lovecraft.
With Widow's Wine, you're mine.
Spain at War. Spain at War is a custom campaign mod made for World at War, but it is a full-on legit separate story that takes place in the Spanish Civil War with voice lines, custom uniforms, cutscenes.
Le han declarado la guerra al pueblo español. Y es el pueblo español quien tiene que defenderse.
You play as Belarmino Ballesteros, who gets pulled into the current conflict going on around him. And you can actually choose which side you fight for. Yes, there is multiple options and paths you can choose. You can pick to either be with the Republicans or the Nationalists. And the Spanish War included some of the first bombings to ever be conducted on civilians. Denizens in Nova 6. Have you ever wondered what exactly a denizen even is? Well, it's theorized that after the moon rockets cracked Earth, Element 115 fallout mixed over with leftover like Nova 6 around Green Run is what caused these denizens to just pop out of nowhere. That they were either some weird animal, like maybe a pig or something, a monkey, or that more disturbingly they were even human babies, toddlers, and Kind of like the same thing of what happened with the Nova Crawlers, you know, just unfortunate. Voices in the nuke. And one of the most infamous scenes in all of Call of Duty, playing as Sergeant Jackson when a nuke goes off, taking out your squad. And you would think that this would end up not leaving any survivors. But when you crash down, there's a cutscene and it shows Sergeant Jackson was still alive, at least for a little bit. And you can even hear a radio talking, and it sounds like they're trying to reach any survivors still out there.
Be advised, nuclear detonation detected. Fallout predicted within a radius of 7.4 miles. Epicenter located at B05860. Personnel within the zone are ordered to evacuate. Contamination sensors are being established at this time and will be operational within 2 hours.
I don't know, but to me it sounds like he might have been able to survive and get evac if he was just there a little bit longer. Maybe if he stayed inside the helicopter, he might have been able to get someone. If he had just stayed alive a little bit longer, could someone have located him? And also, as you walk through all the nuke dust and stuff, you can hear what seems to be some sort of voices, including children. People say that this could either be the memories of the past that this place has, since I mean he is right next to a park and that is where children will be playing, or that it could even be the voices of Sergeant Jackson's own kids that he hears seconds before he passes away. Group 935 creation. This is a theory that Operation Paperclip created Group 935. In real life, Operation Paperclip brought over more than 1,600 Nazi scientists to the US after World War II, including Werner von Braun and others who worked on V2 rockets and human experiments. And it's theorized some of these same scientists were actually part of Group 935 and part of its creation. The story goes that when the war ended in 1945, the Allies captured the core Group 935 scientists during the fall of Dries, and instead of putting them on trial for their war crimes, the US quietly erased their Nazi records and relocated them under the cover of Operation Paperclip. And this did happen in real life. It's true. They were absorbed into NASA, and that's what really started NASA, as well as other US military complex. But in game, they were recruited as the Black Project we know as Group 935, researching Element 115, teleportation, and zombie technology, but now doing it for the US instead of Germany. Which in World War II, we see Adolf and the Germans did in fact know about them zombies. They even developed secret wonder weapons, and it would also explain why Group 935 technology shows up worldwide decades later, like on the moon, Groom Lake, Siberia, Shangri-La. Despite their sins or, you know, their bad actions in game and both in real life, you know, America accepted the Nazi scientists into their organizations to help them. Mole in the CIA. In Black Ops 2, there was a lot of dark and subtle hints showing that someone in the CIA was feeding info to Menendez the whole time and gave us the foreshadowing of what was going to happen. Firstly, when we meet Kravchenko in Afghanistan and resist shooting him right away, we will continue eventually getting more info out of him until he tells us
He even has people in the CIA.
Bullshit! This guy's fucking with us.
After that, when raiding Menendez's drug compound, all the cartel members begin burning everything, including all the papers and evidence. But if you are quick enough and make it to the back, you can literally find some CIA documents.
What the fuck? CIA?
Lastly, when you get to Noriega, Hudson tells us on the radio that we have to exchange him as precious cargo for someone named Nexus Target.
Escort him as PC to alternate location for prisoner exchange. More to follow.
Precious cargo, my ass.
Nexus Target? Who's more important than this asshole?
I don't like it either, but let's just get this done. We're burning too much time. He even has people in the CIA.
Fucking Kravchenko. Remember what he said in Afghanistan?
What about the CIA memo in Menendez's compound? There's something else going on here, Woods.
Cartoon Network hack. In 2012, after Black Ops 2's release during an episode of The Amazing World of Gumball, the Cartoon Network TV station was actually hacked by a group of anonymous trolls, and they decided to play a BO2 meme right as two characters are about to kiss.
I'd love to.
Our journey to victory has begun! Death to the MPLA!
However, there is questions about whether or not this actually happened, which I'm not sure. You see, the first instance of this really being mentioned on the internet was a video posted in 2019 with over 13 million views, and besides it, there's no other mention across the web earlier than that, which you would think something like that would at least have like one news article. But I have made other posts like this years ago, and I would always get people saying that they were watching the Cartoon Network live as it happened. And so if so many people are claiming it happened and that they saw it live, I mean, are they just trolling? Did they see the original video? Maybe they got some sort of Mandela effect. I don't think it happened, if I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it happened. There's nothing that shows it existing before that meme video on YouTube. But hey, someone let me know in the comments if you saw it live. Maybe I don't know. COD 4 suicide mission. This is a theory that Call of Duty 4's ending would have been one in which you die trying to finish the job. Some evidence people point to is that in the final mission of the game, there is some cut objective points that didn't make it into the final cut, and there's even a partially built route that you can almost reach before it collapses. So this means that there was meant to be more to this mission, and it's speculated that it would have included Soap sacrificing himself for the crew. One where Zakayev is trying to take off in his helicopter and Soap grabs on at the last second and plants an explosive while you're in the sky. But I mean, I don't know how he would have done that. The crying baby. In Modern Warfare 2's No Russian Mission, there's actually a little Easter egg if you come up to one of the bathrooms. If you listen closely, you can actually hear a baby crying. Which, this is pretty sad. I mean, did the baby just get left alone in the bathroom? Is it gonna starve to death? Or is the mother in there with the baby? I mean, who would leave their baby in the bathroom? Hangar 18 aliens. In Black Ops 1's Hangar 18 DLC map, if you go to a certain section of the map, you can find a bunch of blood trails as well as some alien bodies that looked like they were undergoing surgery. See, Hangar 18 is a military compound, but it was actually a real-life place, and it was rumored to be experimenting on alien bodies and hiding UFO debris. It was located in Dayton, Ohio, named Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and there was even a man named Robert Spencer Carr, who went on live radio and tried to expose the place, claiming he had proof that they had aliens there. He even requested access from the government to let him in there. However, he was denied, but at the same time, one of the doctors, when talking to Robert Spencer, actually admitted to doing an autopsy on an alien. Maybe they were just like some legendary trolling, or I mean, maybe that place had aliens. Last gen BO3. One of the most mind-boggling things in Call of Duty history has to be the Xbox 360 and PS3 version of BO3. First off, it wasn't even developed fully by Treyarch, but instead by a company named Beanox. And this port of Black Ops 3 didn't include any campaign or any other side mode, like Nightmare or Dead Ops, only multiplayer and zombies. And obviously, with it being last gen, the game had to be toned down a lot in order to get it to run. But the thing is, like, for some reason, Black Ops 2 or BO1, even Call of Duty 4, which came out almost a decade before, they still look better than BO3, which came out in 2015. I genuinely believe it is one of the worst looking games, period, not just at Call of Duty. The fact that Activision even thought this was a good idea after looking at this and worth releasing and buying is just crazy to me. Last gen BO3 even ended up getting a few updates with Horizon Drac and even included the full boss fight, but after DLC 1 they stopped updating it, which means there's still some old features left behind, like having to pay 500 points for a gobblegum. Last gen BO3, man, I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again. Atlas War Orphans. After the terrorist attacks around the world, the company Atlas runs refugee/aid camps, and there they swab the refugees, taking a bit of their saliva, blood, especially the war orphans, during these health checks to quietly build a giant DNA database. This theory states that with these swabs and stuff, they would take the orphan kids as human test subjects behind the cover of care. But it is now time to go to the darkest part of the iceberg. I'm talking murder. I'm talking crazy conspiracies and genuinely sad stuff. Child attack. In 2011, a 46-year-old man was just playing a normal game of Black Ops, and in that lobby there was a 13-year-old boy who kept killing him and kept calling him names over and over, just shitting on him. Eventually the older man snapped, and he literally got so mad and rage baited over a video game, he somehow managed to find where the boy lived before he paid him a visit and began to strangle him. Luckily though, the boy's mom was home and she was able to get him to stop and get out of the house. The man was later arrested shortly after, and I mean, doing this because someone was destroying you in Call of Duty is just crazy. But I know there's probably a lot of people out there that would probably do it if they could. I mean, I know you you would probably do. The best part of this story though is that the man apologized for his actions, and the two even became friends, and the kid and the man began playing Call of Duty together, so it shows friendships can start in a variety of ways. Lee Ross is CIA. Lee Ross was the creative director responsible for Infinite Warfare Zombies. But there is a theory I have previously briefly mentioned, and that it's that Lee Ross is actually a part of the CIA, and he was in it while working on IW Zombies. Basically, Lee Ross was in the CIA and used blackmail in order to get himself to the top of the list for zombies, and he used his connections to build off of that, becoming the creative director main guy. But I know what you're thinking. Why would he be CIA, and why would anyone care? Why would he want to work on Call of Duty if he's in the CIA? Well, some say that he wanted to get in and see how big companies in one of the biggest games having to do with guns and war in Call of Duty, that the CIA wanted Lee Ross to see how they were conducting business, and they wanted to implant some subliminal messages in the game. For example, these little messages that mess with someone's consciousness and make them believe something even though they're not really thinking about it, like the alien boss fight in Zombies in Spaceland or the Afterlife arcade. People theorize the CIA got Lee Ross in there so that he would put stuff like that in the game, and so people would start to believe in aliens subconsciously, or to start believing in reincarnation subconsciously, that you can come back to life and play the Afterlife arcade. I know, and they wanted people to have that in the back of their minds to stop them from believing in Jesus Christ. Kowloon hanging bodies. There's rumors that in the early days of either development or shortly after the release, the hanging bodies of Kowloon in Black Ops 1 were removed from the game. These bodies were people on the run like Dr. Clark, and they were hanging from light poles, lamps, buildings with rope. People are caught in Kowloon in this intel war, and these bodies are not being removed because this part is just, it's corrupt. Nobody is regulating it. It's controlled by gangs, spies, dirty cops. These bodies are just a sign of the corruption we're going through. Nova 6 victims. Nova 6 is a chemical weapon developed by the Germans alongside some Soviet help. It is basically the main plot of BO1, where you play as Alex Mason, who's a sleeper agent and is programmed to plant Nova 6 gas himself. Dragovich is waiting to launch the attack on innocent American civilians, but you know, your boy stops it. However, that doesn't mean everyone was safe and that Nova 6 didn't take lives, and we can see that firsthand. Firstly, in World War II, you play as Viktor Reznov, coming to a place hidden in the snow where Nova 6 was developed, joining Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. Inside, we can see some of the stuff that was going on here. And Reznov, as well as Dmitry Pachenko, the man we play as during World at War, is with us. But in a sad and ultimate act of betrayal, we see the effects of Nova 6 right in front of our eyes as Dmitry dies behind the glass. And the way the gas just slowly kills you is just absolutely disgusting.
Instead of giving his life for the glory of the motherland, he died for nothing. Like an animal.
This place was just a testing ground for human subjects on the effects of Nova 6. And even 20 years later, we see this guy whose gas mask unfortunately broke, and he literally suffocates and horrifically passes away. COD Mobile murder. This might be the darkest entry on the list, and it is honestly probably the saddest. On February 22nd, 2021, a man named Guillermo would brutally murder his close friend Ingrid Oliveira Bueno, stabbing her over 100 times to the point where her skin was coming off and her head was being detached. This event took place in a town near Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Guillermo turned himself in the next day. The two were both Brazilian Call of Duty Mobile pros, and after the murder, Guillermo sent videos and pictures of what he had done to his chat, which had all of his Call of Duty members in it. He even posted some videos on YouTube talking about and confessing about why he committed this crime. And along with the videos he sent of his brutal murder, he also sent a 52-page Word document that he suggested one of the reasons he might have done this. In this document, he wrote a ton of hate messages and went off against specifically women and Christians. And there was then this Brazilian journalist named Lola who started receiving messages as well as videos from Guillermo, along with another group that followed the same line of thinking. And they sent Lola pictures and videos of the murder we talked about earlier, along with another woman who also died named Emily. It seems Guillermo and these groups were absolutely bottom barrel of the Earth savages, and this is a real story, so it's definitely like someone really died over that. Real 115 experiments. Element 115 is a real man-made element on the periodic table called Moscovium. It doesn't exist in nature, and all versions of it basically fall apart almost instantly. The most known stable isotope is MC290, and it lasts about like 2/3 of a second before it decays, which is a pretty long time. That's how long I last. It was created when researchers at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna, Russia, first created element 115 in 2003 by firing a beam of calcium-48 atoms at a thin target of americium-243 inside a cyclotron. I have no idea what I'm saying. And that fused nuclei produced a few atoms of element 115. And I mean, in 2016, the chemistry/physics bodies, they accepted the discovery and gave it the name Moscovium, and it's now on the periodic table. So you might learn about it in school, you know. But in between this time from 2003 to 2016, people say something called Project Orchid was conducted, where this 115 or Moscovium was tested on real-life human subjects. That there was a lab that would make these few atoms at a time, and they would catch the decay in a chain in a carrier solution, and they would experiment with the effects of it on the human body with unknowing test subjects, and then rush them underneath to a heavy partner hospital. And the people they would experiment on were mentally ill criminals, as well as random drugged out homeless people, and some of them made it, some of them didn't. If this is true, then that's crazy. Element 115 might be real. COD 2 Auschwitz mission. This theory states that Call of Duty 2 had a cut mission that took place at Auschwitz, but it was removed from the game for being too controversial. The mission would be one where the Soviets would go and liberate and free the people of the camp, but the ratings and legal side of things would have been risky, especially since Call of Duty was not yet a household name. The level that was early in development was codenamed Grey Gate, and it had you as the Soviets securing outside of the camp, cutting the power, locking down a rail yard, and holding a road while the medics go in. At the end of the day though, the location, the game where it took place, the gameplay overall was just all changed. JFK voiced himself. Yes, I'm not joking. There's a theory that in BO1 JFK voiced himself, or that it is one of JFK's siblings. The man who voiced him was Dave Hill, a professional impressionist, but some say he was just a cover and a good way to tell people who voiced him while making it believable. But I know you're thinking, okay, JFK died like 100 years ago. How did he voice himself? Well, we don't know. He could have faked his death. It could have been a double after all. Or maybe they used Dave Hill for a lot of lines and then used real JFK lines for others. Snippets or segments of him talking. However, the more popular theory is that one of JFK's cousins, nephews, or brothers were actually the one that voiced him. But obviously, if people found this out, then it would be a big story for America. I mean, that's kind of crazy, playing your dead relative in a Call of Duty game. That's fine. So to avoid publicity, they just used Dave Hill to cover up the fact that the actual actor was JFK's family. Task Force 141 is rogue. This is a theory that Task Force 141 is a rogue unit and they do things without clear approval. So basically they take orders from leaders and stuff, but they're not official. So if things go bad for them, then people won't be able to blame the leaders that sent them out on the mission. Task Force 141 is a group of mostly British soldiers, including Captain Price, Soap, Ghost, and they eventually become disavowed and hunted. But they raid Brazil, Russia, and way more countries without even any public approval. And they also work with a multitude of shadow companies and just shadow figures overall. But guys, thank you so much for watching this Iceberg. Let me know what you guys want to see in the future. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and God bless.